Hey guys, have you ever played Diablo 1? Good morning folks, my name is Jim aka Wallace and welcome to the first episode of Revisiting Classics. If you're feeling nostalgic for a moment or just love to watch pixelated gameplay, you've come to the right place. Let's jump in. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Here we go. Today I'm jumping into a pillar of action RPG game, Diablo 1. A 1996 game developed by Blizzard North. This game was a masterpiece. I remember this game being hard, so hard that I needed to cheat to get myself through as a kid. I also remember the game as being extremely dark and stressful, and I'm not even talking about the Butcher. Damn was I afraid of that guy. Did you know this game got an expansion called Hellfire? It was released about 1 year later by another producer called Sierra Online. This expansion had a new class and more dungeon, but for now, I'll stick to the base game. It all started with 3 classes: the Warrior, the Rogue, and the Sorcerer. These are probably the most typical classes you'll see in a game. Melee, ranged, or spellcaster. That pretty much sums it up. I personally decided to go with the Rogue, thinking it would be easier to stay alive being a ranged class. While this is not the quality we have nowadays, it's still a pretty good cinematics for a 1996 game. Is it? And it does introduce a dark and forgotten story. Okay, let's be honest, I learned very little from this cinematic other than some evil creature awake, a warrior is searching for something, and we saw Diablo, who doesn't seem happy. So let's ask the townfolk, they might know something. Tristram is inhabited by 8 people and 3 cows, and they probably watched the same cinematic as I did because they know very little about what's going on here either. Or maybe because you're a stranger that just magically appeared in their village, they might be a bit suspicious. I don't know, but I managed to learn a few things. Apparently the hero already lived here and not long ago some kind of rider came to town to destroy the village and took some prisoners. I also learned that the church to the north has been corrupted and used for dark rituals. And, perhaps Ogden can tell me more if we speak again. Good to know, Ogden. I'll risk my life first, and we'll speak later. Anyway, after being robbed of all my savings by this little thief of worth, just for him to show me goodies I can't afford, may he rest in peace, I decided to head to the church where I met an energetic townsman.
He led us down here to find the lost prince. The bastard led us into a trap. Now everyone is dead.
Wait a minute. Is the lost prince referring to the guy in the cinematics? Intriguing, isn't it? At least I now have 2 names, Lazarus and the Butcher. The hunt begins. This beautiful loading screen led me to the first floor of the dungeon. It's time to figure out what the hell is wrong with this town. Entering the first floor brought back so much memory, like the sound of creatures being killed mixed to a scary soundtrack. Everything here felt dangerous, and the atmosphere was so immersive. I was as nervous as dying as I was in my childhood, and I need to say, for a game with such old graphics, it's pretty impressive. The first few floors were quite easy. I got my first few levels, and don't expect the game to teach you how it works, because it won't. You'll need to learn everything by yourself. It does feel a bit frustrating at first, but in the end, the more I progressed into the game, the better I liked it. The sense of accomplishment is better when you figured out everything alone like a big boy. Item drops were a bit of a pain at first because you need to hover your mouse on the item to actually see it. But at some point I got used mostly to the sound of it dropping, and it was not too bad. I got my first level pretty quickly and obviously didn't get a hint on how stat works. Okay, there's a requirement to equip your item, that's obvious, but other than that, deal with it, or go on Google, you cheaters. But within a couple of levels, I managed to figure out that dexterity increases your AC as well as your chance to hit. Magic increases your mana, allow you to read and use scroll, books, and use staff. Strength increases your damage output even with a bow, and vitality increase life. But enough hints for now, that's not a tutorial. I quickly fell onto this, which I completely forgot existed in Diablo 1, and this folk is a now some feature. Spells book allow your character to learn spells from the game and use them without a scroll. You can even get your town portal as a spell. So much useful. Okay, the magic requirement is high for some of those spells, but items like this end up being very useful to reach those requirements. And you kind of have a very big stash slash town to keep your gears, so there is no excuse not to keep them around. The run continues, or should I say the walk. Walking across the dungeon actually didn't feel too slow. Maps are not too big, so this is not something that bothers me. But it felt really slow in town, especially when you need to go to Adria on the other side of the river, or when you go to seaward. But don't go seaward. You can see he's trying to scam you. He's dressed with rags but sells items for thousands of gold. Something's not right with this boy. I revealed my first shrine pretty quickly. Cool, isn't it? Oh, wait, how the hell am I supposed to know what they're doing? Did you get it by now? There's basically no information to guide your journey in Diablo 1. No info on stats and what they're doing, no clue that your item will be destroyed completely if you don't repair them. No info on shrine or what they're doing, except for obvious things like this one, or this one. Okay, that is useful, but still, harder than that, here's what it looked like most of the time. It doesn't stop me, but I do get hesitant as to whether to use them or not for the rest of my playthrough. All these mysteries led me to the first real fight, and you probably know who I fought. The Butcher. Let me tell you, I was afraid to open this door, so I tried to prepare for the worst. I cleaned the area of other monsters and set up my gear before opening the door. And once I did, I realized I was not prepared.
Fresh meat.
How the hell can he do so much damage, and why is this big guy so damn fast? Okay, I was probably undergeared for this boss. But this game is not being perfect, I managed to shield myself with barrels, and... bye bye Butcher. After I killed the Butcher, Ogden finally wanted to tell me more. The tavern owner informs me that the king of Tristram... Wait, what? A king for such a little town? A mayor maybe, but a king? Anyway, the king got killed by the populace after he fell into madness trying to rescue his son that was kidnapped. He's now an undead and needs to be killed, obviously. Oh, and you also learned that there were more inhabitants in this town before the king's rage. Wow, more info here than from the whole beginning of the game. Killing the Butcher was a milestone for me. I did not manage to kill him often as a kid. The good point of this is that going through the third floor and deeper, the game starts to feel completely new, at least story-wise. Like the skeleton kings that I didn't know figured out in Diablo 1. The fight was way easier than the Butcher though, and the loot was quite good for this level. Or at least it sells for a good amount of money, and as opposed to some other game of the franchise, money is quite useful and allow you to buy some pretty decent gear. Then came my first ring drop. Just listen to that sound. Isn't it beautiful? Okay, back to serious thing. The first mention of Diablo comes in the book The Realm Beyond on level 4.
All praises to Diablo, Lord of Terror and Survivor.
They also make allusion to the Sin War, which we've got more familiar with in Diablo 3. Basically, the Kingdom of High Heaven is in an eternal war with the pits of the burning hell. So the whole thing with the King Leoric was a very little part of a way bigger story. A few steps further, I made a friend, Carnab the Weak. Probably the only creature that doesn't want to kill you there. He didn't want it to be hurt or killed, and promised me good for the next time we meet. But it didn't happen, unfortunately. New books of lore, if I can call them like this, will pop up here and there through the game, some more informative than others. For example, I learned that Diablo wants to get more power to free his brothers, Mephisto and Bel, captive under Sand of the East, on level 8. I also learned that King Leoric got corrupted by the servant of Diablo before his son disappeared. Diablo tried to possess the King Leoric body, but the king was too weak from his imprisonment. So he took the king's boy, Albrecht, instead. The king became mad not because he really wanted his son back, but because of the possession attempt from Diablo that failed. Interesting. Oh, and I also learned a bit about mushrooms.
Now that is a big mushroom.
You probably have noticed by now, but the map layout changed the deeper you get into the dungeon. Starting on level 5, I really started to feel like I was deep under the earth. Everything was eroded by the time. Walls and floor felt like they hadn't seen a living soul for quite a while. Monsters started to sneak around, skeleton disappeared, a dangerous and creepy place to be alone. Okay, not all monsters are intelligent, but believe me, you'll stay alert. At this point I started to find more and more unique pieces of gear, even some that changed the appearance of your hero, which is something I didn't expect from the game. If you're a bit familiar with Diablo 2 and 3, you'll notice that a lot of unique gears first appear in Diablo 1. The more I played, the more I came across new attributes and stat on item, mostly unique piece. This game was way more complex than expected. Even monsters started to be tricky to kill. On level 9, lava rivers started to flow here and there. The music changed and I can feel my hero is a bit stressed because of the way she breathes. Diablo 1 is clearly a game that is worth playing with sound turned on. Even voice acting is nice, especially Griswold the blacksmith.
The anvil of fury!
Was my hero trying to prevent me that she was not strong enough for this area? I don't know, but I finally got killed for the first time here. And it has to be after a 45-minute playthrough without any save. Let me tell you, I start saving more often after that one. So as if my bad luck was not big enough, I made the mistake of saving a bit too often. And I got stuck into the eternal loop of death. I raged a bit here because I didn't see any way to recover from this. Diablo 1 only kept one save and it was this one. I came close to giving up at this point. I really didn't want to start the game all over when I was so close to the end. It's part of old game, I guess. I made up my mind and started all over, this time using the mage. The gameplay was very similar to the rogue because of the ranged aspect. The first thing I noted was the skill on the bottom right that changed depending on your class. For example, with the rogue you have mostly useless disarm trap skill, and for the mage you can recharge your staff, but it reduced by half the amount of maximum charge. Other than that, even though I like to use spells because they look cool, I realized fast enough that the mage was very squishy and the game didn't allow you to keybind your spells, so it was basically a mess. I got bored of him quickly, and I was still thinking about my rogue, about all the good moments we had together. I was thinking about this option of new game, and I thought it was gonna reset my rogue to level 1. But at this point I had nothing to lose, so I tried it. And a miracle happened. I got teleported back to town, level 18 with all my gears and all my inventory. The only thing lost were the items that were on the floor in town, and the quests were all reset. Not perfect, but still way better than starting it all over again. So screw the mage and back to my rogue. It was a bit of a pain to go back through all the level of the dungeon and all the quests, but it was still faster than the first time. The new game was weird, like for example I never found the Skeleton King's lair, even though I should have had the quests. I did some research and realized that Diablo has some sort of side quest bundle that differs from one game to another, so 2 playthrough might be a bit different. So I got back to floor 10 where I left and carefully delved deeper and deeper, facing all kind of new monsters. Floor 13 was another milestone for me. Just the way the stairs and the wall looked got me hyped for the rest of the game. Isn't that beautiful? Monsters do get a bit tougher there though. Those steel lords hit like trucks and those gold viper too. And what about succubus? They look cool, but beware of those red bulbs of death. It ain't a place to get distracted. I needed to use all my knowledge and start being a bit more careful in order to progress. The Card King finally revealed himself as being the last descendant of an ancient brotherhood guarding the secret of a timeless evil. He explained that the Archbishop Lazarus was once a trusted member of King Leoric's court, and even led a party to recover King's son. But he was actually the one that first hit Albrecht in the labyrinth. What a traitor. I finally found Lazarus' staff on floor 15 and this opened a portal to his lair. Clearing the area revealed Lazarus himself. but it was too late to rescue the child.
Abandon your foolish quest. All that awaits you is the wrath of my master. You are too late to save the child. Now you will join him in hell.
His army of Hellspawn were not strong enough, but the Archbishop himself revealed to be quite an opponent. Sneaky mage with their teleports? He didn't want to play fair. Why would I? All this fight for useless flail. It happens that the boy on the altar wasn't the prince, so there was still hope. Lazarus' death was not in vain, and a portal to Diablo's lair appeared. This was clearly the hardest level with the most annoying monster I've encountered so far. Which makes sense because, it's the last level of the game. Here I wasn't able to pass the gate because of the amount of fireballs thrown at me. That's where I realized the importance of resistance in Diablo 1, at least for this point of the game. Griswold had some good gear to sell, but I was too poor. This crown would have helped me so much. There are not a lot of games where merchants actually sell good and usable gear. In the end, it took me nearly half an hour to figure out how to pass this gate. It has been a while since I had such a challenge in a game. And it was not over yet. The Lord of Terror needed to be killed. Diablo was well guarded by his mage, but I managed to drag him out. Oh, by the way, don't try to petrify him, it won't work. But striking arrow rapidly will, because of this little knockback. Useful. So lies Diablo, Lord of Terror, finally dead. Or at least contained in your hero's body, because it seems like a good idea to stab yourself in the face with a sharp stone just recovered from a demon lord body. But for how long will he resist? I hope you've enjoyed this throwback as much as I did. And if you never played this game before, I would really recommend it. Whether you love this genre or just a fan of Diablo's game, I think it's worth at least a try. And let me know down below, what's your memories of Diablo 1? That's it for me folks, let's meet another time for some other classics game.
Legend had it that deep within the Hellforge rested the Anvil of Fury. This anvil contained within it the very essence of the demonic underworld.